Hello, FewCandy here, and welcome back to Solitude. And today's video is sponsored by Hometopia, but we will come back to that later on. And last time out, we built ourselves a crude oil area, which, yeah, I think turned out pretty nice in the side of the hills. There's lots of things to bring in around it and lots of great ideas from you guys in the comments. Keep them coming. We definitely need some office admin areas for health and safety with all of those trees and the fire hazard there. Great idea from Evo, so we will be coming in at some point to do some of that around the base of the oil area. But so far I think it is filling out quite nice. So the plan for today is we have huge residential demand actually now that we've put in so many jobs with our oil area. So we're going to be coming in and putting in some luxury mansions in the hillsides. But before we start building today, we have given our oil area a name, and that is Solitude Oil. And that was an idea by both Neil J. Roberts and also Diana Falkenberg. Thank you both for mentioning that. Absolutely great name. Love it a lot. I love a little pun and play on words, as you guys probably know. So we've got our Solitude Oil area. And I have also added in a fire watchtower. Now, I know a few of you said that this was a massive fire hazard here, but Carsten Zimmerman mentioned putting in a fire watchtower just to add a little bit of safety to this area. So I really like actually how this is positioned up on the hill, and definitely adds good fire coverage to our oil fields. So thank you for those ideas. Keep them coming in the comments below. So starting off today, I'm actually going to be adding in an intersection over here. We're up to 5,500 population. And I feel like with just the one intersection, we need to future plan a little bit. So we're going to be bringing this road out and extending up underneath this highway, and then crossing it actually so that we can do a road that kind of loops and goes potentially over the mountains later on, but definitely adding more access to the highway over here. So we will use the two-way, one-lane highway that we have here, and we're going to bring it up because there's a nice little kind of flat-ish area just about here, which I think would be appropriate for us to use in this case. So we're going to loop it round nice and smoothly, and let's just put terrain lines on so we can check where we're going. We're not getting too steep with this. And this is the kind of area here that I've identified for this intersection. So we want to kind of head up almost to where the terrain line's changing colour at that point there. But let's see how steep we get, because I think towards the end there it is going to get pretty steep indeed. But we are going to tunnel it underneath the road, so hopefully it shouldn't be too bad at all. So let's go up to there, and we're just going to very simply for now bring it across like that. And then as we see, the terrain lines start to get a little bit closer, and the height kind of increases a little bit more rapidly from this point onwards. So we're going to bend this round like this, and then kind of follow this terrain line round along here. And we'll leave it like that for now. Not sure what's happened with this node. Let's just make sure that's at terrain height like that. Yeah, so there we go. It's quite like a nice smooth transition. Obviously it is going to increase in height as it winds up around the hill. Like, we're expecting some pretty steep slopes in Solitude. It's just not going to be avoided. But let's now take this node and lower it underneath our road, just hitting page down with move it to do that. And bring this side down a little bit further too. And then we want to upgrade these roads to bridge sections. So let's go into Network Anarchy here, and we'll just upgrade those. And now we need to sort out the nodes here so that it's nicely positioned. We hold Alt with move it and drag them. We'll keep our nice curve in place, and it will just move the position of those nodes there. So it's a little bit more appropriate and over this segment of the road that we want to cover with this bridge. Like that, and they have gone a little bit wonky. We level the height off either side. It does cause some problems. Although it is coming down here slightly. Is that too bumpy? I think we can get away with that. Yeah, so that's nice and smooth now coming over the bridge. So pleased with that. And we've definitely got enough clearance here. Let's make sure our lights aren't chopping in through the bridge, which it looks like it is underneath. So how we can fix that is we can just shift this node over a little bit. Make sure that lamppost is sticking out in the middle of the bridges there and not chopping through the road at all. And now this side is very steep indeed. So let's again use move it slope function to try and get a slightly more gentle slope on that. It is quite a gradient, but I don't think it's too bad or too unrealistic there. Trucks might struggle just a little bit, but that'll be fine. And we're just going to do a very basic intersection here where we're going to bring out the slip roads to join into this road either side, just straight onto it. I'm not expecting a huge volume of traffic here because the route will definitely be quicker to carry on the highway. just give easy access for the farm area and also for other developments that we're going to be putting in this area too. So let's go back to ground level for this, and we'll bring out the slip roads around about here, and we're just going to try and get some really nice smooth bends up onto it. So I'm actually going to turn off snapping for this so we can bring it out at a nice smooth angle. We just want to make sure that we've got enough space for the cars to like easily get around this. And same goes for this side. We'll come off a little bit sooner, I think, here, and just bring this down this way. That shouldn't be a too steep slope, that side. We'll sort it out with slope tool in just a second. And we'll do exactly the same thing the other side. Okay, so we just want to tidy this up with a little bit of slope function, traffic manager and node controller, and we'll come back to detail this up later on. Yeah, there we go. We have got our nice simple intersection in here, which I think works quite well actually with the slope and the terrain. Like, they're not too steep, the slip roads coming off here. And I actually really like how this road looks coming up through the jungle and this bit of a ravine here. Really liking this aesthetic. So we're going to have lots of these kind of roads flowing over the mountains, I think. So yeah, loving that. So back to the main focus for today, which is our housing area, which is going to go up on the hillside here. And of course, before we put those in, we need to think about a road network. So we do have two connections ready to come in here. We've got this one here, which I do want to bring up and over the rail. So we're going to raise this up into a bridge and bring it over so that it's kind of coming into the top of the hills here rather than doing another level crossing. Because we do have two separate rail lines here and this is coming out of the cargo hub. It really wouldn't make sense in this area. So we're going to avoid that and bring it over with a bridge. And then we also have this road coming out here, which we can definitely bring some roads off to curve around the mountainside. And we're going to put some really lovely luxury housing. And the reason why I've chosen this is because their view out over the beach onto these luxury houses this side and the volcano in the background is really going to be quite spectacular, I think. They can also obviously look out to sea to the waterfall island over there too. Yeah, really enjoying that. And we're going to be having lots of kind of wealth divides in this city. So the focus for today is on luxury mountainside villas, but we're also going to be coming in and putting in a favela, for example, over here, and some low income housing around the valley this side, where there's much less of a view, really looking out over the park. I mean, it's still quite a nice view, granted, but not quite like the beach view of over here. So that's kind of why I've planned it out this way. So let's have a little look at the road network. So we're just going to use our bog standard vanilla roads to start off with here, and we may upgrade them later on. Let's turn on snapping, and we're just going to bring this one out into a nice bridge. So something like that, so we can keep the bridge really level as it crosses, is what I want here. And what we can do, let's just check the height against the rail. So yeah, the rail power lines are clipping very slightly there, so we're going to have to raise it up a tiny bit. So let's grab all of our nodes, and we'll just hit page up and move it just a small amount until those lines are clear, which they are now, so that's good. Let's just grab this node as well and pull it up slightly closer to the rail so we get a slightly smoother slope up this side, and just make sure it is level to our other nodes there, like that. And then we've got space to bring out a road this side of the railway track as well if we want to. Then coming in this side, this tram turnaround needs to be redesigned, shall we say. But we can worry about that in a second. Now, to get this up over the hill, we're going to need terrain lines on here. And what I want to do is actually firstly focus on where the roads are going to sit. So I'm thinking we'll have one relatively low down, which again is going to curve round the side of the hill and try and follow these terrain lines as closely as possible. I think this is the key thing when building on some pretty crazy terrain like that, is you really want to follow it as closely as you can so that you're not getting hugely bumpy roads as you go around. So then here we can connect this in this side and that'll be fine there. And then let's move further on up the hill. We'll have another road, very similar actually in the curvature of it. Again, following the terrain lines out around this way. We're potentially getting a little bit close to the other road here. So I think what we could do is go uphill a little bit and then follow this terrain line round here. We'll have to check that slope in a second, but that is not a problem. Let's just bring it round like that for the moment, and then let's carry this on round this side too. Again, following that major terrain line there. We'll just bring it out to there for the moment. And then I think we could potentially have another one right up the top. I'm kind of thinking we need some kind of key feature building on this top point here. And we're going to extend this one down around this way. I want this to meet up with this road here. Let's flatten it to terrain because I definitely want to keep that terrain height, and we'll have that like that. And then this one, there's no way that this is going to be able to connect up to this nice and smoothly. So let's delete out this little bit of road here. Let's grab this and we'll snap to angle so we get a nice 90-degree angle coming out of there. And we're just going to curve it round to this top bit and we can figure out those sloping markers in just a second. And you can see then if we turn off the terrain lines that these roads are relatively kind of flat-ish. There's little bumps in them, but we can smooth those off with a bit of slope tool. But generally speaking, they're not up and down all over the place, which they can be if you don't use those terraforming lines to your advantage. So with this one, I think what we're going to do is we're going to do a bit of a switch back in the mountain here. So we're going to bring this really tightly round if we can and follow this one back to there. Now that looks kind of all kinds of crazy, but it's easy to fix here. So let's go to network multi-tool actually for the slope function here. We're going to bring that all the way around like this and slope it. So that is a minus 9.1 gradient, which is pretty steep, but I don't feel like that's unrealistic for these kind of mountainside roads in tropical areas. So I'm fine with that and I'm going to go for it. And we can just continue to kind of slope it off in various places here. So we want to try and find places like this where we might be able to bring in another connection, which isn't too bad. It's so fun playing with this terrain. Like I didn't have this in Oregon. I mean, 15.8, that's probably way too steep, isn't it? Yeah, we can't be doing that. So let's delete that out. Let's potentially do one over here. So we'll bring this out like this and down like that. That doesn't look as bad. So let's just check that with network multi-tool. 10.3. We're getting pretty steep here. I think that's okay though. There we go, we have got our road network in, and I have just smoothed things out a little bit more. So this is now a 6% gradient, 6.4% I think it is. This bit is pretty steep. I think that was 9% and this one 8% round this side, but it's all kind of flowing quite nicely. The roads are pretty smooth as they go round. It's just some big steep drop-offs here and there. And I have just created this access down here so that we can build out something in this area. This will probably be a stream job, so we will come in and do some live streams very soon in Solitude, and thinking that area can definitely be that. So start thinking about your ideas for what we can put there. Let me know in the comments. But let's get on and focus on what we're going to put in this area. And now that I've actually drawn the road network in, I'm thinking I'm going to change it here, because what I would like to put at the top here is actually a kind of focal point, because I think like the views down over Serenity here and down up towards the big volcano in the middle there, which we probably need a name for actually. You can let me know that as well in the comments. But I'm thinking the ziggurat garden would go in really, really nicely here. So I'm actually just going to get rid of this road network that we've put in here. And what we're going to do is actually join these roads across. So we're going to put in a straight road across here that we can sit the ziggurat on. Yeah, this is the trouble with playing with terrain. Not like that is how we're going to do it. So let's make those level either side. We probably need to come up a little bit more here, so let's just do that. Let's just page up a tiny bit, just so that we're getting a nice height. I'll drop this one back down to there, and then let's get our ziggurat in so we know what size it is. Now thankfully it's nice and square, so it's actually quite easy to work with, but we're going to put it right in the middle here. And let's just make sure that is kind of nicely situated, so it's sort of pointing towards the centre of Serenity, which I really like. And the reason why I've gone for this is because it's green. It kind of blends into the environment around it, and it's definitely a little bit of interesting architecture for Solitude. Probably doesn't necessarily go with a lot of the kind of lower wealth residential that we have around this side, but I really like it. And looking at places like Brazil, they have got some very interesting architecture up on top of the hillsides. I mean, Christ the Redeemer being one of them, but that's slightly more statuesque. But they have got some really nice kind of historic looking buildings again, so we're going for something modern here for Solitude, but I think it stands out really nicely. And what I'd like to do is bring out some gardens around it too. So for that, we're actually going to use our park life paths as roads, and we're going to bring out a road frame around it. So I do actually just need to extend these roads slightly so they sit just outside the edges of the ziggurat here. So something like that will be fine. And then let's grab our park life paths with roads, and we're just going to drag it nice and simply around the ziggurat like that. Let's get move it, and we're going to select nodes, and we're going to marquee all of those and just make sure that they are level with our ziggurat building like that. So it gives a nice framing to it, and we can sort out things like the terrain on this corner later on. Then we just need to connect in these roads. We can go ahead and do that pretty simply, and then let's just use move it to tidy up some of these segments here. And then what we can do is flip round the ziggurat. So let's turn it around this way so that it's facing this side. Now I definitely don't want car parking spaces here, so let's go to Bob. Let's get our invisible car parking spaces. We'll remove those and the regular ones there. Get rid of all of those. And then we got the front of the ziggurat pointing out towards Serenity. So that's kind of how I want it. And what we'll do is some nice fountain gardens, I think, around the outside of this. So we will come on to that in the detailing in just a second. Let's also think about trying to get transport up here, because I think it is going to be needed. And I don't think a bus necessarily from the bus station is going to cut it up to the ziggurat really, but we will bring one in so there's alternatives to it. But because we've got the ferry stop here, we've also got tram stop here too, and we can extend the trams out around. We'll change this at a later date when we come to build around this area. I'm thinking we should actually put in a cable car here. So if we just tuck this in at the bottom like that, now it's it is an interesting design. I definitely don't like the vanilla trees. Let's remove those. And I think we'll remove all the hedges as well. I've just got a little bit of a cleaner slate there. So that's the kind of bottom step for this. And then I'm thinking the top one should be up close to the ziggurat. Thinking something here. And what we will do is smooth out this terrain around it. Let's just go ahead and do that. So we'll just grab this level terrain and push this back a little bit, and then we'll just smooth out some of the slopes around this. That's a little bit kinder. Something like that. It gives quite a flat step for the ziggurat to sit on there. And what we simply need to do is bring in the cable car for this. Now ideally we'd just go straight over it, but I don't think that that is going to work with our roads here. what we will do is we want to go straight. So we kind of want to kind of make sure that this line is like that, but we're going to need to page this up a little bit as we bring it in here. So let's go like that. And then we can get it in there, and that now sits nicely over the road. So that's going to be super, super, super steep coming up from the bottom, but we actually don't need it this high. Okay, so we have got that now. That's working much, much better. The poles look sensible. The cable car looks sensible. It's giving road clearance. It's actually not too bad coming up here. I think it would be quite a nice journey. So that is working nicely. So let's come on to our housing. Now I have set up a tag called Soul Hill, just the name that I've given it, for some nice kind of luxury mansions that I think would sit nicely in the hillside here. I'm using a few workshop assets, this BKK housing pack and sufficiency housing pack. I think they're Japanese buildings from the workshop. They will be in the asset list. And also a little bit of Aquitania as well from the workshop, but then mostly vanilla buildings, including a little bit of mid-century modern, a little bit of green cities. The level 5 ones do so nicely with this kind of hillside mansion style look. So we're going to go ahead and place in a few of these, and I'm going to use Alt-V with Find It to sort of randomise the assets that are coming in, yeah, so that we get a nice selection of them. I'm going to focus here, and what I do really want with these is I want them relatively tightly packed in. Lots of randomisation within it. There we go. We've tried to make sure that they aren't too long around the train track for these very steep jungle cliffs, which I actually quite like. The look at the top of these houses kind of poking out over the cliff. And yeah, there's a lot of detailing to do here. A bit of safety fencing, I'd say, and some foliage and trees and bringing that natural environment back into these areas. Some of them don't really have backyards as well, so we want to kind of define those. But yeah, we've got some of these assets like this one here, which is a very grand, fancy mansion. Absolutely love this. The little stairs up the top here. But they definitely need some big, fancy pools, I would say, out the back. So let's have a little look at how we would do that. So I'm going to use this pool pack here from the workshop. And some of the assets we've chosen already have these. But for these ones that don't, where we do want to add a pool, of course, if we plop these in, what we can do is kind of use retaining walls to make it look like a sort of kind of bit of an infinity pool in some instances is kind of how I want this to look. So what I'm actually going to do is use one of the park life paths for this. So we'll just go for the nature reserve path, that's fine, so that we can see it for now. We're going to change this to a terraforming network actually. And we're going to just push it up right up close to the edge of this pool like that. And we're going to come into fences. We're going to use a retaining wall and we're going to draw in a piece of retaining wall like this. Now I don't want it snapping into anything, so I'm actually just going to draw it up to there for now, which looks strange, but we'll fix it with Move It like this. We've grabbed both our nodes and our retaining wall, then we can just lift this up that's up alongside the back of this pool. Let's make sure that these nodes are both the same height too, like that. And obviously that's way too high, so let's drag this down. It looks like our pool is floating right now. It's kind of cool. But yes, we'll do it like that. Let's move this down a little bit so it's just in line with the pool. And this is going to give us a really nice balcony style edge to this luxury house overlooking Serenity down the bottom there too. Now what we want to do now is just get these nodes into place. So I'm going to draw one down the side as well, like that. And of course we need to raise this one up too, so let's grab that. We'll just sit page up with move it, and we'll do exactly the same thing this side. We've got this nice retaining wall around the outside of this property. And using our terraforming network, we're just going to draw in a segment in front of the retaining wall like this. I'll just replace the path with this. I use the path just so we can see where we're putting our retaining wall. We can then get this into position nicely, but we could do it either way. It doesn't really matter. I just find it easier because then you can see the path. Now I'm going to level the height of it so it's nice and straight at the bottom of the retaining wall, but that to me looks quite nice. We've got the step up of the sort of jungle overgrowth there, and I do want to clear out some of these trees. And then we've got the retaining wall behind it onto the infinity pool style area. So yeah, I'm quite enjoying that. I'm quite enjoying that. Then of course we can use tiling, or we could use a little bit of surface painter in here, just to tidy up their backyard and give them like a bit of a area. And we definitely want some fencing around this too. And what I'm thinking is I'm going to use the glass fencing from Mid-Century Modern to place this all the way around the edge of the pool. So I think this should look pretty good indeed. And we can't use prop snapping because these raise as well above the ground. So it's, yeah, pretty nice, I think, to use this. So we're going to go ahead and try and put these all the way around the edge of the pool. But before we come on to doing too much detailing around these houses, let's have a little look at today's sponsor.
For in the hopes and dreams of everyone, there's a home they can call their own. Hometopia is the new frontier for builders. You can design the home of your dreams. Make a mansion. Construct entire neighborhoods in multiplayer. Hometopia is for all the builders out there who come together for a single purpose: to build better together.
So Hometopia is a virtual world and simulation game that allows players to build, design and renovate beautiful homes and neighbourhoods. And the best thing about it is that you can build in co-op multiplayer mode with up to 4 players working together to complete large multi-development communities. So if you like building games, as you can see I do here, even in cities, then this is definitely a game for you to go and check out. There's also a whole career mode where you can take on a variety of client jobs and hone your development skills. And there's a huge range of things to do here, from very small one-room renovations all the way up to full house construction, which is in the works right now. And the game will be available very soon, so please go and add it to your Steam wishlists via my link in the description below now. It's a super fun one, and if you'd like to see some gameplay on the channel for it, let me know in the comments below. Now, I had a really tough time getting these glass fences to sit on top of that retaining wall because you can't use prop line tool when you're prop snapping into the air like this. So you do have to place them individually, and trying to get them to line up is a arduous task, I won't lie. But we got there in the end, and I absolutely love the view from this pool. It is my favourite view, I think, in any city at the moment, and it's only going to pad out more as we build more into the valley around Serenity as well. So super excited to come on to all of that. And so the detailing here is pretty much, as you can see, we are doing a few backyards on some of the houses. A lot of the houses that I plopped in already have pools and backyards incorporated into them. So it was about going around and checking all of the assets and making sure we were putting in security fences to ones that didn't have it, adding in pools where it was appropriate or other little backyard items. So lots of residential props used here. And then filling in the area with our Solitude Rainforest foliage, as we are up in the hill now, so it's pretty dense around this area. But I did try to maintain sight lines and view lines, particularly from the ziggurat at the top of the mountain, but also from some of these key pool and backyard areas to make sure trees weren't just blocking their view out of their lovely designer pool areas. And you know, it really isn't that tricky to use ploppable surfaces and retaining walls here without like needing any complex mods like PO, just to place them in and really give yourself that extra level of detail to some of your residential assets. So go and have fun with it. So that brings us to the end of another Solitude episode, and I'm really liking how the start of these houses are sitting in the hills. We'll definitely be coming in and putting in more mansion style housing further along the line, but I'm liking the kind of first upper class neighbourhood, slightly rich neighbourhood that we've got going on here. And like I mentioned, we'll be coming in next time and putting in some low wealth, low income areas for our residents too, kind of balancing out that income divide that we're going to make quite apparent across the course of Solitude. But in the meantime, let me know your name suggestions for this area and for the ziggurat point that we have here in the comments below, and we'll give it a name on a future episode. But that is all from me for today, so if you have enjoyed the video, likes, comments and shares are really greatly appreciated. Don't forget to go and check out Hometopia via my link in the description below. But that's all from me for now, so thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for the cinematics, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye.